It's late again, isn't it? One something, maybe two. The world's asleep or pretending to be, but here you are, awake, still scrolling, still thinking. You didn't plan to be up this late. You never really do. But your mind has other ideas. There's that quiet ache in your chest again. Not physical, not exactly, just something heavy that doesn't go away. Maybe it's anxiety, or grief, or the kind of still sadness that arrives without knocking and settles behind your ribs like it pays rent. You've tried the breathing apps, the sleepy teas, the white noise playlists with names like Rain on Ancient Roofs, but nothing is quite working tonight. If your brain won't power down, that's okay. If your thoughts are loud or fast or tired of being alone, you're not broken. You're human. And I'm here. Let's not fight sleep. Let's walk gently toward it. You don't need to move. Just listen and breathe. We're going back. Not centuries. Not even millennia. We're leaving behind buildings, metal, and maps. We're returning to a time with no names for months or diseases, just the rhythm of sun and dark warmth and cold living and not living. You open your eyes to low morning light, pale and yellow slipping through woven reeds above you. The air smells of ash and damp clay. Your breath fogs faintly as you exhale. You're inside a small shelter walls made from mud branches, animal hide. The floor is earth. The ceiling creaks with the wind, and you're not alone. Beside you, someone is breathing in short, shallow bursts. A child, maybe, or a sibling. Their forehead burns with fever skin pale against the fur bedding. There's no word for infection here, no germ theory, only instincts. Smoke, herbal smoke, bitter and sharp, trailing up from a bowl near their head. Someone left it there. Maybe you did. Someone said it helps. Maybe it does. You press a hand to their chest, it rises, falls. You listen, hoping it will keep rising, keep falling. You step outside barefoot on wet soil. The air bites. Other shelters dot the area like low, hunched animals. A woman is crushing leaves into pulp with a stone. A man chews bark spits into a bowl. It's not medicine the way we know it, but it's something. It's effort, hope, desperation. In this village, sickness is part of the cycle. There's no hospital, no cure, no long explanations. People vanish slowly or suddenly, and life folds around the space they leave behind. And still they try, with roots, with rituals, with whispered words and cooling hands. Not to fix always, but to soothe. Just like you now. You're not here to fix your thoughts. You're here to witness them, to sit with them, to let them soften just for a while. If you found even a sliver of peace in this voice, you're welcome to like or subscribe. But only if it helps. Only if it makes your night a little quieter, no pressure, no rush. So, where are you right now? Are you sitting up in bed, shoulders hunched, phone propped awkwardly on a pillow? Are your feet still cold under the blanket, or are you too tired to notice? Maybe there's a fan spinning softly in the corner. Maybe it's just you and the glow of this screen and the sound of someone gently walking you toward rest. Turn off any lights if you haven't. Breathe deeper. Let your thoughts be what they are and let them drift. You don't have to chase anything. Just let go. Tonight we'll walk with the oldest humans, not the strong ones with spears and fire, but the quiet ones who sat beside the sick. The ones who didn't understand what was happening, but stayed anyway. Let's begin. Hey guys, tonight we're going to travel far, far back before there were cities, before there were doctors, before there were even words for things like infection or immunity. You're going to wake up in a prehistoric village with a strange tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your limbs, and absolutely no idea what's happening to you. Spoiler, no one else does either. And you're about to find out what that means. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I make these stories slow, soft, and strange on purpose to give your mind a place to rest. And if you're watching this at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., or in the quiet hours when everything hurts a little more, I see you. You're not alone. Post your location and local time in the comments if you'd like to say hi to others in the dark. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake with a strange chill despite the fire having burned all night. Your back is damp, your mouth tastes like metal. Someone left a woven blanket over your legs, but it feels heavy like stone. The air smells like wet bark and animal fur and something sour that might be coming from you. There are voices outside the hut, quiet but not whispering. Just softer than usual. You try to lift yourself, but your arms don't listen quite right. Not weak exactly, just disconnected. The muscles contract but slowly, like honey over cold stone. You blink and the roof above you, woven branches and packed earth, seems to twist slightly before settling. And that's when you know something is wrong. And whatever it is, it's not just tiredness, or hunger, or one of the usual pains. The worst part is no one can explain it to you. Not because they won't, but because the words for it don't exist yet. In your community, pain doesn't have subtypes. There's no migraine or fever or flu. There's just not rightness. And that's what you are now. One of the older women peeks into the hut. Her eyes flicker across your face and then down to your chest. She doesn't come in. She just nods once and disappears again. You hear her footsteps scuffing the packed dirt. Moments later, someone starts heating water. It's not fear exactly, it's more like collective caution. Prehistoric groups weren't big on emotional display, especially when it came to things that threatened the group. But the hush, the sideways glances, they all say the same thing: something is happening and no one knows what it means. That's the thing about getting sick in a time before medicine. It's not just a personal issue, it's a possible curse, a punishment, a sign from the spirits. And because no one knows where it came from, the suspicion sits on you. Your breath, your touch, even your dreams. Anthropologists think small bands may have had a few patterns, ways to respond when a person started showing strange symptoms. But these weren't based on germs or hygiene. They were based on memory, on who got better and who didn't, on which rituals seemed to help even if they didn't. Historians still argue whether early humans recognized illness as a distinct category or simply saw it as a kind of temporary possession, something that happened to a person like a storm or a bad hunt, something they just had to ride out or endure. You try to sit again. This time your spine folds forward like an old reed basket, and for a moment you think you might fall straight through the floor. But you don't. You plant your palm in the dirt, feel its coolness, and breathe through the nausea. It's still early outside. You can tell by the light slanting through the hut, thin and bluish like river mist. Someone sets a clay cup beside your sleeping mat. Inside is water steeped with something bitter, leaves bark. There's a hint of sweetness, but mostly it tastes like root. You sip it because that's what's expected. Because in this world, compliance is survival. If the group thinks you're cursed, you'll be sent out. If they think you can be saved, they'll try. That line is thinner than you'd like. You lie back down, not because you want to, but because there's nothing else to do. Work is out of the question. You won't be asked to skin animals or mend traps today. That job falls to someone else now, someone who isn't tainted. It's a strange thing being labeled by silence. You are still part of the group, but not quite. You are watched, but not touched. Your name is whispered, not spoken. And in your heart, though no one has said it aloud, you know this could go either way. You could wake tomorrow and feel fine, or you could slip into the kind of sleep that people don't wake from. But for now, the cup is warm in your hands. The hut is still. And your breath slow as it is keeps coming. The next morning comes not with a burst of sunlight, but with a slow gray seep, as if the sky is unsure whether the day is worth the effort. Your body is still a soggy bundle of bones and muscle, but at least it's yours again. Mostly. The dizziness has backed off a little, leaving behind a dull echo behind your eyes, like someone struck your skull with a hollow gourd and forgot to stop ringing it. A child pokes their head in through the low entrance, pauses, and vanishes just as quickly. You know the look, curiosity struggling with fear. In your world, illness doesn't just hurt, it unsettles. There are no hospitals, no doctors with reassuring clipboards. Sickness is a crack in the structure of everything that feels solid, and people don't like cracks. Someone finally steps in. It's one of the elders' face painted with ash, carrying a small woven pouch. You recognize her as one of the spirit talkers, a woman who deals with the invisible things. Not that anyone would call her a healer. That word doesn't exist here. But if someone's bleeding inside their body or raving from fever, this is who they call. She doesn't speak. She just kneels beside you, opens her pouch, and pulls out a lump of resin, dark, sticky, and pungent. She grinds it between two stones, muttering under her breath. Some of the words sound like names. Some don't sound like words at all. She dabs the paste on your forehead, chest, and palms. It's warm. It smells like trees and dead things and smoke. You resist the urge to flinch when she presses the spot above your heart and whispers something too soft to catch. Whether she's summoning strength or banishing demons, you're not sure. It doesn't matter. You're past questioning the logic. You just hope something sticks. This, by the way, was about as advanced as it got. Prehistoric people had no idea about bacteria. Germ theory wouldn't arrive for tens of thousands of years. What they had were herbs that sometimes worked, rituals that might comfort, and a deep belief that health and harmony were linked both inside the body and in the wider world. The line between healing and magic was non-existent. Historians still argue whether the earliest societies practiced anything like medicine, or if they simply lumped physical illness in with bad luck, bad behavior, or bad weather. Some think the very first surgeries, like trepanation, drilling holes into skulls, were attempts to let out evil spirits. Others believe they were just trying to reduce pressure from head injuries. The fact that some of these patients survived at all is frankly astonishing. The elder finishes. She gives you a cup of thick broth, this time more root than meat, though there's definitely something chewy in it that you don't want to identify too closely. You drink it anyway. The heat settles your stomach and leaves your lips tingling. You wonder if that's the spice or poison. You spend most of the day horizontal. Occasionally, someone tosses a glance your way as they pass the hut. No one lingers. That's part of the unspoken rule here. The sick are acknowledged, not entertained. Comfort is not a communal job, it's a risk. You drift in and out of sleep, catching slivers of sound, the grind of bone tools, the crackle of fire, the wet slap of hides being scraped. Life goes on without you, as it always does. No one pauses the rhythm of the day to check on you. If anything, they quicken it. The group can't afford to stall. You remember something from childhood. A boy who had coughed until his lips turned blue. His mother took him into the woods, holding him tightly and singing to him for hours. When she came back alone, no one asked questions, they just gave her space. The next day, no one spoke of the boy again. That memory crawls around the back of your mind now like a worm in fruit. You tell yourself it's different. You're not that sick. You're still breathing. Mostly steadily. But you also know this community doesn't wait. When the sun dips low again, painting the earth in tones of rust and charcoal, the elder returns. She sits beside you without ceremony, reaches for your hand, and hums a tune you half recognize, part lullaby, part warning. Then she takes your wrist and listens. Not with instruments or calculations, just with her fingers pressed against your skin. Feeling. Judging. Apparently satisfied, she nods once, then leaves a small stone by your mat, etched with marks that might mean safe or watched or in progress. You're not sure. But no one has brought a spear or wrapped you in ceremonial skins, so you're still part of the group. For now. You drift again as night falls. The air grows colder, but the fire burns steady. You're still not well. But you're not getting worse. And in this time, that counts as hope. You wake up to the sound of something scratching the earth just outside your shelter. Not loud, not frantic, just a steady scrape. At first, you think it might be someone preparing for the morning cookfire. But it's too early and the rhythm is off. You lie still, ears wide open. Your pulse skips. Then it stops. Silence so thick it presses against your ears. You breathe through your nose. You don't move. In the dark of your hut, with the embers just barely glowing, everything feels too still. Then a soft thump like something heavy being dropped in the dirt. Not a threat, maybe, but definitely not routine. Eventually you hear voices, low murmurs, a man coughs, a child laughs, then is quickly hushed. The village wakes slowly like dough rising, never all at once. You sit up slowly, dizzy but upright. Victory, you emerge from the hut. Morning has just begun to stretch its limbs across the treetops, and mist clings to the grass like old memories. A few fires are being coaxed back to life. Smoke trails upward in long, lazy curls. Somewhere nearby, someone is crushing nuts between stones, the rhythmic knock-knock echoing like a heartbeat. And just a few feet away from your doorway, a dead animal, half buried. Probably what you heard last night. Not a predator kill, it's been placed, not dragged. Wrapped in reeds. One of the dogs sniffs at it and is sharply chased off by a boy with a stick. It's an offering. For the spirits or the ancestors or whoever's in charge of nighttime mercy. This is the kind of quiet magic that binds the community together, small, strange acts that mean safety, protection, or perhaps a plea. If you had died last night, this might have been a gift to keep the rest of the village safe from your ghost. But since you didn't, it's thanks. Maybe. Historians still argue whether early hominins had a concept of the afterlife, but burial rituals go back farther than most people realize, some as early as 100,000 years ago. Simple graves, yes, but often with tools, bone shells, and even flowers. Which means even back then, death wasn't just absence. It had meaning, structure. You walk carefully across the village clearing, still a little off balance. The sun finally pierces the fog with a sharp yellow blade. Someone hands you a drink of warmed water, thick with plant shavings. You take it without asking. Children chase one another in a chaotic game that seems to involve yelling and tossing clumps of something organic. Probably not dung. You hope not dung. The air smells like cooked tubers and damp fur. A woman sits cross-legged, stripping sinew from a deer hide. Her knife is shaped from obsidian black glass, sharp as a whisper. It glints in the sun and reminds you that despite all the dirt and disorder, some things here are precise, even surgical. You watch for a while. She doesn't look up. Prehistoric life was intimate. You knew your neighbor's breath, their routines, their bowel movements. Privacy didn't exist, and personal space was a seasonal luxury. If someone had a rash or a cough, the entire village experienced it. Sickness wasn't private, it was shared. Your recovery now is not just your own business, it's a collective matter. Everyone is quietly tallying whether you'll survive, and whether they might catch it too. Your stomach growls. That's new. Encouraging. You're invited to sit near the central fire, which means you're officially among the living again. Not the fully healthy, but at least the not dead. A skewer is passed your way, bits of meat charred at the edges, possibly squirrel. Possibly not squirrel. You chew slowly. Across the flames, two elders are painting something on a wooden board. The pigments are smeared with spit and crushed roots, but the brush strokes are careful. The image looks like a man with a strange head, maybe a mask, maybe a spirit. Maybe both. This is your people's version of a calendar. Not with days or weeks, but with stories. Pictographs marking floods, hunts, births, omens. And now it seems the sickness that didn't take you. It might show up as a black circle, or a handprint with a mark through the center. You've seen them before decorating cave walls like echoes. Some people believe those handprints were just early graffiti, but others, they say those were signatures of survival, proof that someone made it, or didn't. You add a log to the fire, careful not to knock the pot that's bubbling beside it. Inside, something greenish and frothy simmers. It smells faintly of mint and mud. Someone's child trips and bursts into tears. No one rushes. They wait a beat, then two, and when it's clear the wailing won't stop, a cousin scoops the child up. Not the mother, not the father, just someone available. That's how things work here. The tribe isn't built on ownership, it's built on function. And that means you, even half-healed and barely useful, are still part of the equation. You'll mend fishnets later, or dry roots, or help scare birds away from the food stores. No rest until death, and even then only maybe. By midday, you're assigned to help carry stones for a new fire pit. Not too many, not too heavy, but enough to signal your re-entry into the living rhythm. Your arms shake by the second trip, but no one laughs. They just nod, pass you another stone, and keep walking. You drop the last stone onto the growing fire pit ring, and for a moment everything tilts. Not dramatically, just enough for the ground to feel softer than it should. You steady yourself against a nearby log and breathe deep, damp ash pine bark, someone's sweat, and the ever-present tang of something rotting very, very slowly in the distance. Probably the midden heap. Still, you're up. You're not coughing up blood. That's basically thriving by prehistoric standards. Someone hands you a strip of dried meat. It's leathery, tough as a sandal, and tastes like sadness. But it's food, and food means you belong. Even if your stomach is still negotiating the terms. Around you, the village starts humming again. Not music, actual humming. A group of women squatting near the edge of the clearing start vocalizing low rhythmic tones. It's not a performance, it's just part of the work. Grinding acorns, pounding bark, plucking lice. The humming helps. It keeps tempo, keeps focus, keeps the spirits entertained. Historians still argue whether this kind of proto-music served spiritual, social, or practical purposes. But let's be honest, sometimes a tune is just what keeps you from screaming while you scrape maggots out of old meat. One of the elders, a man who's probably only 40 but looks 80, notices your return. He waves you over. You follow cautiously into the shade of a leaning tree where he's arranging bones in the dirt. Vertebrae may be deer or human. You don't ask. He taps the bones with a stick, muttering to himself. It's not magic, not exactly. It's more like pattern recognition disguised as prophecy. He's tracking omens, checking for signs in the way the bones fall, the shape of shadows, the feel of the breeze on his face. He gestures for you to sit. You do. Then he touches your shoulder lightly and nods toward your chest. You glance down. There's a faint red mark there, maybe a rash, maybe from the herbs, maybe from lying weird all night. He mutters again, and this time you catch a few words. Something about the cloud spirit leaving your body. You nod solemnly. Always best to agree with the bone reader. He sprinkles a handful of crushed leaves into a bowl and adds warm water. The scent is sharp camphor pine, something like vinegar. He tells you to rub it into your skin tonight. You will, if only to avoid waking up feeling like your lungs are trying to run away. You thank him with a soft grunt. Language here doesn't always need words, and he returns to his task. A chicken wanders by and immediately regrets it as a toddler lurches after it, arms outstretched like a tiny, joyful predator. You head toward the food prep area where a group is cleaning fish. One of them, a girl with a missing front tooth and eyes like wet slate, pats the ground beside her. You sit. She offers you a fish. It's not dead yet. You stare at it. It stares back, mouth working soundlessly as if it's reciting ancient curses. You look at the girl, she grins, hands you a rock. So now you're part of the afternoon task, finishing what the net started. One fish, one rock. It's messy. You're too slow. But nobody yells. Efficiency isn't everything. Participation counts for more. By now the sun is tilting westward. The shadows stretch long and dramatic across the grass, making everyone look taller, more heroic. Even you. You try to pretend your knees aren't shaking. They are. A man walks past carrying a bundle of firewood balanced on his back. He doesn't speak, just nods once. You nod back. That's the thing about this life, so much is unsaid, and yet nothing is really hidden. You know who cried last night, who got scratched by a wild pig, who's been slipping extra berries into their pouch. Everyone knows. But no one points fingers, not unless they're ready for the whole village to know what they've done in return. Social structure is like a hammock woven from everyone's business and full of small holes. But it still holds. You rinse your hands in a shallow stream that smells faintly of sulfur. The water's cold enough to bite, your fingers sting. But you feel clean, or at least prehistoric clean, which is to say slightly less sticky than before. As you stand, your reflection in the water ripples. You don't look the same as you did yesterday. Or maybe you just never really looked that closely. Your hair is knotted, your cheeks are hollow. But your eyes are sharp now. You survived. That matters. A few kids are gathering near the central fire. It's story time. Yes, even here, even now, long before Netflix and podcasts and plot twists, people still gathered to hear someone explain the world in a way that made sense, or at least made it feel less random. Tonight's story is from the spearmaker, a woman with half a nose and a voice like thunder filtered through gravel. She doesn't waste time with greetings. She just begins mid-breath, as if the story was waiting in her throat all day. It's about a man who tried to swim across a lake to steal fire from a spirit who lived inside the water. The man burned his hands, lost his voice, and got turned into a frog. But he brought fire to the people. You've heard this one before a dozen times, but tonight you catch something new, a detail about the frog's feet or the way the spirit laughed. Stories here evolve like genes. They mutate, stretch, survive, and they remember. As the tale wraps up, someone hands you a piece of cooked root. You bite into it. It's dry but sweet. Above the first stars appear faint pinpricks in a bruised sky. You're not healed yet, but you're healing. And that's enough. The stars multiply while you sit there quiet, full, and maybe a little itchy. You're not sure if it's the root, the herbal goo, or some enthusiastic colony of bugs rediscovering your ankles. But you don't move. The fire crackles in the center of the circle, casting everyone in shades of gold and coal. This is when the village feels most like a family, just not the kind that hugs. The kind that knows where to find moss for bandages and how to scream loud enough to scare off a panther. The elder across from you, same one who read your rash, sits hunched over a carved piece of bone. He's etching something slowly, carefully. You squint. It's a line of dots and slashes, nothing like modern writing, but it means something. Historians still argue whether prehistoric carvings were proto-language record-keeping or just stress doodles. Given how today went, stress doodles feel about right. Your legs stretch toward the fire. You've earned the heat even if the soles of your feet still sting from stepping on something sharp earlier, a twig, a bone, possibly a piece of last year's dinner. A rustle to your left. A girl, not quite a teenager, not quite a child, leans over and whispers about the owl spirit watching from the tree line. You glance that way. Sure enough, two reflective eyes blink slowly, lazily. The owl doesn't care about your fire, your food, or your spiritual drama. But the villagers care. They believe it brings news. Good or bad depends on the owl's mood. And frankly, owls are always in a mood. A few more people trickle into the circle. One limps using a stick. Another drags something wrapped in hide, a net maybe, or a bundle of reeds. Everyone shares space without fuss. No one's trying to dominate the conversation. The loudest thing is the wood popping in the flames and the occasional grunt of approval when a story hits a good beat. Tonight's theme seems to be when everything goes wrong, but somehow you live. A popular genre around here. One woman describes getting caught in a flood swept 3 trees away only to land on a rock where bees had made a hive. She got stung 20 times, but also found honey. Everyone murmurs in admiration. Not at the honey, at the survival. Bees are practically tiny daggers with wings. You nod along, chewing another piece of root, pretending it doesn't taste like spongy despair. Then someone starts humming again. Just a low note rising and falling like breath. Others join in. It's not a song exactly, it's more like the forest breathing with you. A shadow passes near the outer edge of the firelight. Not human. 4 legs. A soft snort. You freeze. It's a boar. Small, curious, and probably not hungry enough to be dangerous yet. A few villagers glance toward it, then shrug. They've seen worse. You, however, are calculating exactly how fast you could run if necessary. The answer is not very. But the boar wanders off unimpressed. You release a breath you didn't know you were holding. You lean back onto your elbows, watching sparks twist upward. The night is warm but not kind. You've heard the stories of spirits that mimic voices of creatures that steal dreams of a darkness that isn't just the absence of light but something heavier. Still, you're not afraid. Okay, you're a little afraid, but mostly you're too tired. A hand claps your shoulder. It's the spear maker again. She says something about helping with the night watch. You nod before you fully process it. Now you're committed. The watch is unofficial, no sign-ups, no shifts, but everyone takes turns. Predators don't care about fairness and dreams can't protect a village. You stand, stretch, regret standing, and follow her toward the outer edge of camp. The woods loom like they're leaning in for gossip. Every branch seems to whisper. You're given a torch, a small club, and a soft good luck that feels both sincere and vaguely threatening. You sit near the trailhead, half hidden behind a fallen log. You're not sure what you're watching for. Movement, sounds, ghosts. Probably all of them. It's quiet, then it's too quiet. Then a frog croaks and you jump like someone shot a blow dart at your soul. The minutes crawl. Your torch flickers. You stare into the dark so long you start to see shapes. A face in a knot of bark. A hand in the twist of a branch. Your imagination has better special effects than any monster ever did. You hum low and soft the tune from earlier. It helps. And then just when you're about to give in to sleep, something rustles in the bushes 5 feet from your face. You don't scream. That's growth. You grip your torch, ready to wield it like the sad flaming stick it is. The rustle gets louder, closer. A pair of glowing eyes emerge, and then a long snout. Long ears. Fur. It's a dog. Well, not a dog. A prehistoric half-dog, half-wolf creature with the attitude of a raccoon and the hygiene of a swamp. It sniffs you, snorts, and promptly pees on the ground beside your foot. Then it vanishes back into the trees. You've been blessed, or cursed, or both. When your replacement arrives, you practically hand off the torch mid-sentence. Your legs ache, your eyes burn, but your heart's still beating and you didn't die, which again is basically winning. You crawl toward your sleeping spot, curl into the still warm ground, and wrap your arms around your chest like a shield. Above the stars still watch. The owl's gone. The boar's forgotten you. And your dreams will smell faintly of torches and tree bark. You wake up stiff, which isn't unusual, but this time your neck has decided to stage a silent protest. Sleeping on woven mats of reeds and packed dirt never promised orthopedic support. The fire is now mostly ash-thin trails of smoke curling up like sighs into the dawn. Your first sensation before you even open your eyes is the smell of morning damp earth, wet wood, something faintly sour, probably fermented from the night before. That or someone forgot to rinse their gut-skin water pouch again. You sit up slowly. Around you, the village stirs like an old animal reluctantly waking. Someone's already poking the coals back to life, blowing gently. Another yawns loud enough to startle a bird off the fence post. The sun hasn't cleared the trees yet, but the sky's bleeding pale orange and purple. It'll be hot soon, and you'll spend most of the day sticky, itchy, and slightly sunburnt, but you already knew that. Breakfast isn't served. You find it. Today you head toward the riverbank, basket in hand. You're looking for tubers, maybe a few edible leaves if you're lucky. The water hums nearby. Frogs plunk into it lazily like they're on vacation from danger. You envy them. You use a stick to dig near the roots of a familiar-looking plant. You've been told it's safe, boiled at least. Raw, it makes your tongue go numb. Someone found that out the hard way. Historians still argue whether early foragers learned by watching animals experimenting or sheer trial and error stubbornness. Probably all three. A bark breaks the quiet, sharp warning. You freeze. Then a small boy runs past, stick raised like a sword, shouting nonsense. His older sister follows, scolding him in what sounds like equal parts fury and pride. You're not sure whether to laugh or duck. Back at the village, people are setting up their tasks like pieces on a board. The hunters disappear into the trees. The net weavers sit cross-legged in the shade, fingers moving faster than your eyes can track. Every action here has the weight of necessity. No room for luxury unless you count not starving as luxury. One woman crushes berries in a hollowed-out stone, adding ash and spit to make a poultice. You don't ask what it's for. It's always something. You carry your bundle of greens back toward camp, and that's when the elder calls you over again. You're starting to wonder if they've chosen you as some sort of apprentice, or if they just enjoy watching you squirm. This time she hands you a bone. Not just any bone, long, clean, polished, smooth, with shallow cuts down one side. A tally A. Message A. Warning no one knows. But they want you to copy it. Onto bark, with a rock. It's art, or data, or both. You sit beside her and begin scratching. By midday, the sun burns directly overhead. You move like your bones were replaced with damp straw. Shade is no longer optional, it's survival. Someone brings over a gourd of water. You take a sip. It's warm and faintly musty, but it tastes like safety. As the heat peaks, most of the village slows down. Even the birds seem quieter. You sit with the elders now, the ones who remember floods, plagues, and that one time someone tried to domesticate a raccoon. It ended in tears and scratches. They tell stories not just to entertain, but to encode knowledge. A tale about a spirit that cursed a greedy man is actually a warning about hoarding food in a damp cave. Another about glowing lights in the marsh. Don't go near it at night, not unless you want to sink. You ask a question, something small. Something about why the fire pit is always kept in a circle of stones. The answer you get is threefold: to hold the heat, to keep out crawling things, and because that's the way it's always been. That third reason pops up often. You spend part of the afternoon mashing grain with a heavy rock hand, sore shoulders, screaming. The sound is rhythmic, hypnotic, the kind of work that eats time while your mind drifts. You think about how many people had to die from eating the wrong mushrooms before everyone agreed on which ones were safe. Grim teamwork, really? You pause only when a hawk passes overhead, shadow slicing across the earth. Everyone watches. Birds mean something. Sometimes food, sometimes omen. This one circles once, then drifts west. The kids mimic it with sticks pretending to fly. You wonder what they'll remember when they're old. Probably this sweat dirt, someone yelling about chores, and the smell of singed fur from the fire pit. Toward evening, a group returns from the forest carrying something on a stretcher of branches. It's wrapped tight, but you see blood. Someone got hurt. A fallen animal. No one says. Everyone just moves. The medicine woman appears instantly, not because she was called, but because she always knows. She gestures and they carry the bundle to her hut. Inside it smells of damp roots and something sharp, maybe garlic, maybe desperation. She calls for you. Oh no. You step inside, eyes adjusting to the dim light. The injured man is pale, sweating, breathing shallow. The cut runs down his thigh, deep. Your job. Hold him still. You do. The healer chants, then works. Stone blade, hot ash, poultice that smells like burnt onions and fear. The man groans but doesn't scream. Later you help carry him to a shaded spot near the edge of camp. You sit beside him, not speaking, just there. He looks at you, once nods. You nod back. Another day in the village. Another scar to remember it by. Night creeps in slowly, the kind of creeping that doesn't rush, just settles like ash after a long fire. The sounds shift before the light does. Birds go quiet. Crickets begin. Somewhere deep in the woods, something howls, not loud, not close, but enough to remind you that you're not alone out here. Not really. Dinner is ready, if you can call it that. Roasted roots, a handful of dried berries, a strip of meat so dry it's more suggestion than substance. No one complains. Complaining takes energy, and everyone's conserving what little they have. You eat near the fire, watching it crackle and leap. The flames paint flickering shadows across faces, turning everyone into part story, part ghost. The elders are already nodding off, heads dipping like sunflowers at dusk. Someone sings. Not a song with words, just a tune rising and falling like a memory you can't quite grab. You hum along before realizing it. You don't know the song, but your bones do. It's older than this village. Older than any of you. After the meal, there's a ceremony. You didn't know one was planned, but that's the thing about prehistoric ceremonies, they're rarely scheduled. When the mood strikes, it happens. Someone paints ash across their cheeks. Someone else tosses herbs into the fire, which pops and hisses and sends up a column of fragrant smoke. It stings your nose and makes your eyes water, but no one flinches. This is part of it. A man starts to dance awkwardly at first, then with a rhythm that feels borrowed from the earth itself. Others join. It's not graceful. It's not pretty. But it's honest. You're pulled in before you realize it, hands grasped by calloused fingers, bare feet sliding over packed dirt. You move with the group, each footfall echoing the heartbeat of the night. Faster now. Someone claps. Someone laughs. For a moment it feels like nothing could go wrong. Then the fire flickers strangely. It stutters, not from wind, but something else. Everyone stops. A hush. Eyes shift to the tree line. Nothing moves, but nothing feels still either. Someone mutters something about the spirit of the forest being displeased. Someone else says it's just the wind playing tricks. You want to believe that. You really do. But you don't sleep inside walls. Not here. Not now. Your shelter is branches and bark, maybe a fir if you're lucky. So the idea that something might be watching something ancient, maybe hungry, doesn't exactly ease you into sleep. The group disperses, slowly, murmurs trailing behind them like mist. The fire is banked coals glowing red like watchful eyes. You grab a stick and poke it absently. It crumbles. You settle in for the night, wrapping your cloak or what passes for one tight around your shoulders. The ground is uneven. You find a patch that doesn't poke too hard and call it a win. You close your eyes, then open them again. Something's breathing nearby. You're not alone, but then you never are. There are always sounds, always the rustle of small lives nearby, rodents, insects, the occasional snake with dreams of warmth. Still, this one feels heavier. You sit up, ears straining. You don't move too fast. That's how prey gets noticed. There, in the shadows, two eyes, shining. Too high for a rodent, too low for a bird. There, you reach for the closest thing resembling a weapon, a sharp rock, a branch. No, your hands close around a bone, the polished one the elder gave you earlier. Great. Maybe the spirit will admire your symbolism before it eats you. Then the eyes blink and move away. Whatever it was, it's gone. For now. You lie back down, heart doing a weird little beat you don't approve of. You force your breathing to slow. In, out. Pretend you're a log, a very unappetizing log. Eventually your thoughts settle again. Sort of. You're not sure if what follows is sleep or a series of hallucinations, but either way your body takes the wheel. Dreams come jagged, ancient, filled with teeth and stars. Someone's hand is on your shoulder, guiding you through a field of glowing mushrooms. You turn and they're gone. You walk into a tree, but it opens like a curtain. There's a river made of light. You drink from it. It burns. You laugh. When you wake, it's still dark, but not deep night anymore, just the tail end of it. The fire is mostly out. One person stirs, then another. You sit up, body groaning like old wood. That's when you hear it. A sound from the healer's hut, a low whimper. The injured man. You go to him. He's pale, sweating. Fever high enough to fry an egg on his forehead. The healer is already there, crushing leaves between stones, whispering something that sounds more like a lullaby than a chant. She doesn't ask you to help. She doesn't have to. You hold the man's hand. He grips it hard, then harder, then stops. Just like that. Still. The healer looks at you, her eyes deep and unreadable. She says nothing, just pulls a blanket over his face. You step outside, stomach knotted, unsure what just cracked inside you. Death isn't new here, but it still stings like smoke in the eyes. Someone begins to dig. Others help. You do too. The ground is hard. The work is slow. The sky begins to pale. The day is coming. And so is the next meal, the next wound, the next small joy, the next pointless joke. Life here is many things. Easy isn't one of them, but it's yours. And that for now is enough. The sun returns without drama, just that gradual bleed of light across the treetops, cool gray becoming soft gold. It catches the dew on the leaves, turns spider webs into silver threads, makes the village seem almost peaceful. You blink into the morning, stiff-limbed and groggy, and remember the burial. His name lingers on your tongue, but you don't say it. Not out loud. That's not how things are done here. You're handed a piece of dried meat for breakfast. No one says good morning. No one really says anything. You all just eat slow and thoughtful. There's work ahead, and morning is a luxury no one can afford for long. The children are already awake, chasing each other barefoot between shelters. One of them stops to poke at a bug, then yells that it's the size of a berry. Everyone ignores him. Bugs are always the size of something around here. Yesterday it was a toe. A few women head to the stream with baskets on their hips. Others gather firewood, weaving the dry twigs into bundles that rest against their backs. You're sent to the edge of the village with two others to check the traps. You don't argue, you don't even sigh. The forest is awake, and so are you. The first trap is empty. The second has a rabbit, small but fresh. The third has been sprung but holds nothing. Something cleverer than you has had breakfast. Probably a fox. As you walk, one of your companions, a wiry man with more scars than expressions, tells a story about a time the spirits warned him in a dream not to hunt in a certain part of the forest. He ignored it. The next day he stepped into a bog and nearly vanished. He laughs as he tells it, which makes it slightly less terrifying. You nod politely, though historians still argue whether such tales are meant as moral instruction, actual memory, or just the prehistoric version of a dad joke. Either way, you file the story away. You don't plan on visiting any bogs today, but just in case. Midway through the trail, you hear a rustle, not the small kind, the kind that involves weight and intent. You freeze, everyone does, the forest listens with you. Another rustle. You grip your stick tighter. There's always a chance it's just a deer. There's also a chance it's something else, something hungrier, something territorial, the kind of something that doesn't respect your status as a paying customer in the ecosystem. The sound fades. You all keep walking, pretending not to care how loud your breathing has become. You return with the rabbit, and one of the women immediately begins preparing it, gutting, cleaning, spitting over fire. She doesn't even glance up. The muscle memory of hunger is stronger than gratitude. You notice one of the elders placing small stones around the fresh grave. A circle carefully done. Each stone seems chosen for a reason. One is speckled, one is smooth, one has a hole through the middle. You wonder what it all means. The elder catches your gaze and gestures you closer. You sit beside her cross-legged. This one, she says, touching the whole stone lets the spirit breathe. You nod slowly, not because you understand, but because understanding isn't always required. Sometimes bearing witness is enough. Later, you help repair a wall of one of the huts. The wind knocked it crooked 2 nights ago, and the family inside has been grumbling ever since. The job is simple: mud stick, press, repeat, but it takes all morning and a part of your soul. There's something oddly meditative about smearing wet earth with your bare hands, but also something deeply annoying about how it dries on your arms like concrete. One of the children runs up to offer you a frog. You decline. He insists. You accept. It stares at you with the unblinking confidence of a creature who's never had a tax audit. You let it go when he's not looking. By noon, your stomach is growling again. The rabbit is almost ready, its smell clinging to everything. Smoke, meat, ash, and sweat, today's perfume. Lunch is eaten with fingers torn and dipped into a thick paste made of ground roots and something tangy. You try not to ask what. Around the fire, someone begins talking about the stars. How they change with the seasons, how certain ones bring fish, others bring sickness. There's a debate about whether the moon prefers gifts of fruit or meat. You joke that it probably just wants to be left alone. No one laughs. The moon is not a joking matter. You nod respectfully. Message received. In the afternoon, there's a group heading out to gather medicinal plants. You're not invited, which is probably for the best. Last time you went, you mistook a sleep herb for a laxative. Let's not talk about that. Instead, you're tasked with preparing new arrowheads. You sit with 2 others, one an expert, the other worse than you, and work silently. Flint pressure flake. It's tedious but satisfying, like popping bubble wrap with purpose. You cut yourself. Of course you do. It's not deep, but it bleeds like it's auditioning for a tragedy. Someone hands you moss. You press it on. The bleeding stops. You live, barely. The expert shows you how to use a different grip, slower, less risky. You nod. You wish he'd done that an hour ago, but you also understand this is the prehistoric version of learning on the job. By the time the sun lowers again, your shoulders ache and your fingers are raw. But there's a row of new arrowheads laid out beside you, each one slightly better than the last. You feel a flicker of pride, not joy exactly, not satisfaction in the modern sense, but a tiny glimmering moment where you think, I helped. That's the currency here. Not gold, not likes, just usefulness. The sky darkens. Again. And just like that, you feel the shift. The wind changes, the air grows damp, the fire is lit, and the night, oh, the night is waiting. The light dies, slowly leaking away behind the trees like it's trying not to be noticed. You're sitting near the fire again, knees pulled up to your chest, the backs of your legs sticky with a mix of sweat and dust. The smoke swirls upward, harmless in the day, but now oddly protective. It keeps the bugs away, it hides your scent, it makes the night feel less infinite. You can't see the stars yet, but you know they're coming. You just hope nothing else is. The older men take turns adding wood to the flames, no words, just practiced movements. One of them adjusts a long stick holding a chunk of meat over the coals. The meat sizzles and the smell makes your stomach clench. Again. Someone behind you sneezes, the group turns. Just for a moment. Not with fear yet, but with alertness. You've lived through enough nights to know sickness starts small. And in a place like this, it doesn't stay small for long. No one says anything. The fire cracks louder, trying to fill the silence. A dog-like creature howls somewhere in the distance. It's not close enough to panic, but not far enough to ignore. The sound lingers too long, as if it knows it unnerves you. You try not to imagine what prehistoric predators might be stalking the edges of your light. You eat quickly. The meat is tough, maybe goat, maybe not. You don't ask. The paste is the same as lunch, only colder. You chew, swallow, and wonder whether people will someday invent spoons. You hope they do. One of the women begins to hum. A low, tuneless vibration that eventually becomes a song. You don't recognize the language. You suspect no one really does. It's older than any of you. Maybe even older than the sky. And here's your nightly reminder that linguists still argue whether early humans used song for ritual, for memory, or just because they liked how it made their loneliness feel smaller. The children huddle together in the hut, piled like pups. The adults sit closer to the flames. It's not cold, not really, but darkness has a way of making you feel naked even when fully dressed in leather and fur. Someone suggests a story, not a happy one, of course. Those are for spring. This one is about the time the moon disappeared for 3 nights and a hunter swore he saw it stolen by a giant bird. He followed the feathers into the forest. Never came back. The fire crackles, your skin prickles. The storyteller gestures with his hands, miming talons, miming wings, miming vanishing. It's effective. The flames flicker as the wind shifts. You hunch your shoulders a little tighter. You hear someone whisper a name, not the hunters, but someone they lost long ago. The voice is soft, almost like it slipped out by accident. The others pretend not to hear. Because names hold weight here. Once spoken, they call things closer. You stare into the fire too long and start seeing shapes, eyes, teeth, hollow spaces. You blink, shake your head, and breathe through your nose. But the fire is not a safe place to stare. Not tonight. Eventually, you stretch out on the ground. The sleeping skins are rough, and every small rock under your back feels like a mountain. But it's still better than sleeping on a branch like last season. That branch broke. You still have the bruise in your memory. You shift, settle. One arm under your head, one across your chest. You tell yourself not to listen, but you do. Crickets, wind, a distant owl, the creak of something that might be a tree or might be watching. A rustle, too close. You sit up. It's just a boy sneaking out of the shelter to pee. He waves and disappears behind the brush. You exhale. You lie back down. Again. Try to think of warm things. Of rivers in summer, of lying in the sun on a flat rock, of not being afraid of the dark. But the dark here isn't like the dark in cities. It isn't friendly. It isn't quiet. It breathes. It remembers. The fire dims, and so does everything else. Shapes blur. Colors vanish. The world goes grayscale. You close your eyes. You try not to imagine the creatures that ruled this land before fire, before tools, before you. You try not to imagine what might still linger from then. But sleep doesn't come easy here. Somewhere in the back of your brain, a tiny alarm still ticks. You know you're supposed to rest. You also know you can't afford to completely let go, because one night out of every 100, something does come out of the forest. And when that happens, the ones who snored through it don't get mentioned in tomorrow's story. You open your eyes again. The stars are out. Too many to count. Too far to help. You wonder if the moon's back from its bird-related vacation. You spot it just above the trees, watching, pale and full and silent. You offer a quiet thank you, just in case that really does make a difference. Then you finally begin to drift, not into deep sleep, not into dreams, but into that middle place where your mind stays half-lit, your body stays still, and the world stays dangerous, but just far enough away. You're not safe, but you're not gone either. And that for tonight will have to be enough. The morning doesn't wake you with sunlight or birdsong. It wakes you with pain. Your back throbs from the uneven ground, your neck feels like it twisted halfway into a knot sometime during the night, and your shoulder is damp where someone else rolled onto your skin blanket. Still, you made it. You're alive. Congratulations. The fire's mostly ash now, still warm in places, but lazy and gray. A few coals crackle faintly as someone pokes at them with a stick, hoping to stir something back to life. It works just enough to reheat a thin broth, mostly roots and yesterday's leftover meat grease, but it's warm and doesn't smell terrible. You sit up slowly, wiping grit from your eyes and trying not to groan too loudly. Around you, others do the same. Some stretch, some scratch, one sneezes again. That same one. The one from last night. No one says anything, but you all hear it. And here's your fun historical footnote. There's a growing theory that early humans could sometimes isolate sick individuals not out of advanced medical knowledge, but because of an uncanny sensitivity to danger in the group. Pre-instinct epidemiology, basically. You dip a hunk of bark into the broth. It's not meant to be edible, but it's what passes for a spoon today. You sip carefully, grimace, and keep going. Breakfast is not a joy. It's a checkbox on the survival list. Children start wandering out, hair-matted eyes wide and puffy. One is crying softly, rubbing a stubbed toe against a tree root. No one hurries to comfort them. Comfort is a luxury, and luxuries belong to the well-fed and well-defended. The tasks begin quickly. The men head out to check the traps. The women grab baskets and drift toward the scrubland looking for tubers, berries, and anything vaguely chewable. You're assigned to stay behind with the elder, which you're told is an honor. What it really means is we don't trust you with sharp things yet. The elder sits on a stump near the fire and gestures for you to gather kindling. Not too dry, not too wet, not too brittle. You nod and shuffle toward the tree line, scanning the ground. You wonder what she's thinking. She's been alive longer than anyone else you've ever met, maybe 30 years, maybe more. Her face is a map of all the winters she's survived, and her hands tremble unless she grips something tight. As you bring back the stick, she starts speaking. No warning, no build-up, just a steady murmur in that same language the songs are sung in. You can't follow every word, but you catch pieces, dreams, fire, teeth, water, gone. She points to your foot and says something that makes the others laugh. You check. There's a leech. Of course. You yank it off, grimacing. The elder nods, pleased. Lesson 1, nothing good comes unnoticed. And just like that, you realize this is school. Prehistoric school. No chalkboard. No pop quiz, just slow lessons carved into your skin and brain through repetition and bite marks. You sit with her most of the morning. She shows you how to listen, not just hear, but listen. To wind to bird calls, to the silence between things. You nod solemnly, but your mind wanders. Because the traps. You keep thinking about the traps. They were set near the river. That means someone will have to cross the bog. And the bog remembers. Historians still argue whether early humans had taboos around certain places because of consistent danger or because of a few bad stories that spiraled into folklore. Either way, no one likes the bog. By midday, only half the hunting party has returned. The elder notices. Her eyes narrow. She waves someone over and speaks softly. You don't catch the words, but you see the worry. You get sent to gather water, not from the bog, from the wellspring near the smooth rock. It's safe as far as anything is. You carry a cracked gourd tied with sinew, walking alone. The path is narrow, lined with low shrubs, an old prince human canine, and something else. Bigger. Clawed. You don't stop to think about it. Thinking too much out here is just asking for panic. The spring gurgles softly. Cool water flows over mossy stone. You crouch, dip the gourd, and take a long sip before filling it for the group. You allow yourself a moment to breathe. It's peaceful here, the kind of peace that makes you wonder if danger is waiting just outside your field of view. Which is, let's be honest, always true. Something rustles nearby. You freeze. Another rustle. Then a snort. You look slowly over your shoulder. It's a boar. Not full-grown, but not small. Black eyes, foamy mouth, tusks just starting to curve. It hasn't seen you yet. You sink lower behind a bush. The gourd trembles in your grip. The boar sniffs, moves on. You wait. Count to 50. Then run. You don't spill the water. Small victories. Back at the camp, things feel tighter, quieter. The returned hunters look shaken. One limps. One is bleeding from the arm. One is missing. They say nothing. No one eats right away. The elder begins a chant. Not a song. This one is harder, lower, more rhythmic. It thumps in your ribs. The missing man's spear is laid beside the fire. That's the funeral. Later they'll burn it. You sit near the elder again. She pats your knee once, not gently, but with purpose. You nod. You understand now. Life here isn't measured in days or meals or steps. It's measured in who comes back. Afternoon settles like a damp blanket, thick and unwilling to lift. The sun is still up there somewhere, but it's doing a poor job of proving it. Clouds roll low over the treetops, and the air tastes like metal and wet bark. It's going to rain again soon. You can feel it in your joints, even if you're not old enough for that to make sense yet. Around the camp, movement slows. No one says it, but they're all tired. Not just in the physical way, though. That's definitely part of it. Tired in the soul. One fewer person than yesterday. One more funeral song waiting to be sung. One more memory filed away in the back of everyone's minds. Don't go left near the river. Don't go alone. Don't turn your back. You help patch the windbreak near the fire pit, weaving long branches between upright sticks. It doesn't do much against real storms, but it helps with the breeze and gives the illusion of safety. Illusions count for a lot out here. You figured that out. Someone sharpens a stone blade nearby, the rhythmic scrape oddly calming. It sounds like a heartbeat if a heartbeat were made of granite. You're asked to help with the evening stew, meaning go find some more edible greens and bring them back fast. You don't argue. You're getting better at knowing what's optional and what isn't. As you pick your way through the underbrush again, you keep one eye on the trees and the other on the ground. You know now which plants to avoid, the fuzzy ones with red stalks, the curling ones that look too perfect. Nothing pretty is ever good. That seems to be a universal rule. You find a patch of sour leaves and a few stringy roots, they'll do. You gather quickly, twisting them into a rough bundle, and that's when you see it. Half buried under some leaves near a fallen tree is something not natural. It's not stone, not bone, not wood. It's carved. You kneel. It's a small figure, humanoid, roughly shaped, worn smooth at the edges like it's been touched 1,000 times. Eyes gouged out, mouth a slash, arms stretched wide. Some kind of idol, a marker. You glance around. No one's watching. You don't touch it. Smart move. Historians still argue whether prehistoric people worship deities in the way we think of religion, or whether their symbols were more about memory marking places of danger, loss, or transformation. This one feels like the latter. You back away slowly, bundle in hand, spine prickling the entire walk back. The stew smells better than it tastes, but that's normal. You eat in silence, watching sparks drift upward into the growing dusk. The sky purples. Somewhere far off, thunder growls like a waking beast. Night comes early when you're scared. People huddle closer to the fire, a little closer too. Not for warmth, it's still too humid for that, but for each other. For proof that you're not alone. The elder starts a story. This one is longer, more complex. You don't understand every word, but the cadence wraps around you like a blanket. It's about a boy who followed a hawk too far and ended up inside a mountain. Or maybe a dream. Or both. The lesson isn't clear, but that's not the point. The point is that someone remembered the story long enough to tell it again. You think of your own memories now, of the boar, the leech, the missing man's spear. You wonder if you'll ever retell those moments or if they'll dissolve into the dirt with your bones someday. The baby starts crying again. The sick one. He's feverish now, curled up beside his mother, who fans him gently with a woven mat. The elder looks over, expression unreadable. Later the crying stops. No one celebrates. You lie down under the stars, though they're mostly hidden by clouds tonight. The damp smoke from the fire clings to your hair, your skin, your soul. It's oddly comforting. As you start to drift, something moves in the distance. You're not sure if it's real or just the dream edges of sleep. A flicker of motion, a rustle, a shape, then nothing. Still, your heartbeat kicks up a notch just in case. You shift closer to the group, letting your hand rest on a nearby sleeping form. Not because you need to, of course. You're brave, but still, just in case. Sleep comes slow like fog rolling over warm rocks. You don't fight it. You just hope the morning still wants you. You wake up to the sound of dripping. Not rain, at least not yet, but the slow, methodical kind of dripping that comes from saturated leaves shaking off the night. Your back is damp. So is your hair. So is the woven mat you used as a blanket, which has absorbed the ground's breath like a sponge. Someone's already up. You hear hushed voices, not panicked, but tense. You sit up carefully, not quite ready to face whatever news the morning brought. But you don't have much choice. The sick baby didn't make it. They've wrapped him already in bark and fiber, tucked small pieces of ochre-dusted cloth into the bundle. No wailing, no spectacle, just a heavy quiet that presses into your chest like a rock. The mother isn't crying, not outwardly. She looks carved, still. People keep their distance, but also hover, orbiting her like moons around something sacred and broken. Death isn't unusual here. That doesn't make it easier. There will be a burial soon, but not yet. You have to wait for the sun to fully rise. And besides, there are practical things to handle first, like eating, washing, and ensuring no animals followed the scent of sickness during the night. You step out past the edge of the clearing to relieve yourself, eyes scanning automatically for threats. No fresh tracks, no bent grass, no strange smells. Just birdsong and mud. Still you hurry. Still you. By the time you get back, food is already being passed around. Flat cakes made of crushed roots and something bitter that might be bug paste. You try not to think too hard about it. Hunger overrides revulsion in about 3 bites. The burial is quick. You help dig through the soil, fights back. It's sticky and filled with hidden roots that clutch at your tool like fingers. Still, the pit is made. The baby is placed gently inside, bundled like a tiny offering. There are no grand speeches, just a soft humming sound, a song you've heard once or twice before. You hum, too barely audible. Not because you understand, but because it feels wrong not to. A few people scatter dried herbs over the body. One drops a tiny carved bird beside the bundle, then dirt. Just like that. Gone. You wonder how many times this has happened before. You wonder if the earth remembers. You're given a task to pull you out of your thoughts. The elder sends you with two others to check a nearby stream. Not the big one. A side path. You've never been there, but you nod like you have. Confidence is currency. The walk is longer than expected. The woods are thicker here, and it smells like mushrooms and something musky. One of your companions slips on a slick stone and curses softly. You all laugh quietly. It feels strange and allowed. You find the stream eventually. It's shallow, cool, winding through mossy rocks and black pebbles. You rinse your face, splash your arms, let the cold bite through your skin, and then you see the fish. Tiny flashing silver things darting under the surface. You've never seen this many in one place. You crouch. Your friends do the same. Soon you've rigged a basic trap from twigs and vines. It won't catch much, but maybe enough for tonight's stew. As you work, one of your companions starts humming. A different song than the funeral tune. Lighter, maybe older. You hum too. Why not the return trip feels shorter? Maybe because your net has weight now, or maybe because you're already imagining the warmth of the fire, the smell of cooking, the comfort of being seen. When you get back, the mood is a shade lighter. Not happy, no one would call it that, but less heavy. One of the hunters has returned with a small animal, something rodent-like and scrawny. It'll feed maybe 3 people, 4 if they're polite. You clean the fish by the fire, carefully scraping away the guts with a shard of flint. You're better at this than you used to be. The first time you gagged. Now it's almost meditative. The elder watches you with something like approval, or maybe amusement, hard to tell. You add the fish to the stew pot. The smell surprisingly is good. Salty, smoky, with a tang of herbs that someone found and tossed in without asking. People eat in silence again, but this time it's companionable. The fire crackles. A baby, not the one who died, but another, starts babbling in nonsense syllables, and a few people smile. Someone brings out a bone flute. The music is uneven, breathy, but soft. You lean back and let it wash over you. Historians still debate how advanced prehistoric musical traditions were. Flutes dating back 40,000 years have been found made from vulture bones or mammoth tusks. No one knows the exact melodies played, but clearly the need for sound, for rhythm, for something beyond survival has always been there. The sun dips again. You hadn't realized how much time passed. You find your sleeping spot and settle in. Tonight feels quieter, not peaceful exactly, but less sharp. Your muscles ache. Your fingers smell like fish. You're not sure if you're cleaner than this morning or just covered in new kinds of dirt. But you're still here, still breathing, still part of something. Your eyes open slowly in the dim morning mist, though for a moment you're not sure why. There's no shout, no rustle, no warning. Just a subtle shift in the air, like the forest is holding its breath. You stay still, ears straining, heart picking up speed. Then you hear it, a low, deliberate grunt from beyond the trees, followed by the faint snapping of underbrush. It's not panic yet, but it's not nothing either. You glance around. Others are stirring too. Some are still asleep, cocooned in fur and matting, unaware. You nudge one with your foot and make a low gesture. Listen. The elder is already up. He's standing motionless, facing the sound. You watch as he picks up a charred stick and draws a spiral into the dirt, something you've seen him do before but never quite understood. He mutters, then calls out in a bird-like trill. For a breath, the forest holds still again. Then a second trill answers this one from the trees. You exhale. It's one of the scouts. False alarm. But it was close, too close. The scout appears a few moments later, muddy and breathless, face slick with sweat. He drops to one knee and spills out a handful of broken branches, each notched with marking symbols for threats, water sources, new animal tracks. One of them is the shape of a crescent with slashes through it. You've seen that one before. Saber-tooth. Not here, but nearby. Close enough that it hunted the same paths you walked yesterday. And even if it's gone now, the unease it leaves behind clings like damp moss. You and 2 others are sent to reinforce the perimeter. You carry sharpened stick stones tied to vines and one of those absurdly heavy clubs that nobody wants until they really, really need it. It's work. Tedious, itchy, back-breaking work. You rub pungent leaves over your arms to keep the insects away, but it only helps for 10 minutes at a time. Still it beats sitting around and wondering if claws are coming for you in the dark. You mark trees with crushed berries, bright warnings that fade fast but serve their purpose. You hang strings of bone clinks across narrow paths so anything bigger than a child will make noise coming through. It's not high tech. It's not even medium tech. But it saved lives. And despite what textbooks might imply, your people aren't dumb. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans had organized territorial systems or if they roamed more freely, but the evidence of trap-making, boundary markers, and recurring fire pits tells a different story. This isn't chaos. This is cautious survival. On your way back, you pass the burial spot again. There's a fresh layer of flowers on top. Small, bright things with bruised petals. Someone's been here. You pause for a moment. Not long. Just enough to murmur something, maybe not in words. Back at camp, the air feels warmer. There's talk of travel. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. The season is shifting, and with it the patterns of food, water, and danger. You're not sure how far the next camp is. You've only ever heard vague distances, 5 sleeps, 2 storms a week if no one breaks a foot. But you've seen the look in the elder's eyes. He's watching the birds, the wind, the trees. Reading signs you don't even know how to see yet. You eat a midday meal of bark paste and roasted mushrooms that taste like old socks. You pretend to enjoy it. Someone laughs when you gag slightly and says, "At least it's not fermented goat milk again." You both shudder at the memory. You spend the afternoon helping the youngest ones gather cordage materials. Long grasses, reeds, strips of bark. It's dull, repetitive work, but oddly soothing. And while you do it, the littlest one, barely walking, keeps trying to eat everything. Dirt sticks your hair. You laugh harder than you expected to. There's something grounding about this rhythm. No fire to fight, no predator to chase off. Just the steady repetition of hands, moving voices humming. And the occasional fart from a nearby dog-like creature that's adopted the camp as its own. That creature has no name. You call it stupid. It answers to nothing. Later, as dusk creeps in, you sit beside the old woman with the bad knees. She's weaving again. This time, something new, a pattern of loops that spirals inward. Means protection, she mutters. From what you ask. She shrugs. Depends who's looking. You ask her about the crescent mark with slashes. She pauses. Not just teeth, she says finally. Old story. Big cat, yes, but also spirit. Hunter of hunters. You dream of it, you move camp. You nod. You don't ask more. Tonight you help with the fire. The wood is damp, but someone found resin, and soon the flames are crackling like laughter. Smoke curls upward, carrying smells of wood and meat and memory. Someone begins a story. It's one you've heard before, but you listen anyway. It's about the first human who ever made fire, not stole it, not found it after lightning, but coaxed it from stone and will. The tale changes every time, but one detail remains. He didn't do it for warmth or food. He did it so he wouldn't be alone in the dark. You look around. Maybe that's still true. You wake to the sound of thunder, except it's not thunder. It's the ground rumbling under something big. Something heavy. Not close, not yet, but coming. You don't move right away. You've learned that stillness sometimes is the best kind of thinking. You let your senses settle, peel apart the layers of sound. There's the soft shifting of bodies in sleep, the hiss of a smoldering fire, the distant call of something that might be an owl or might be a lie. Then again that pulse, not a step, a stomp. You sit up slowly, scan the darkness. Stars overhead, a sliver of moon, no clouds, which means no actual thunder, which means mammoths. Probably a small herd. Males don't usually travel in groups this time of year. If you're lucky, it's just the older females guiding the young through familiar terrain. If you're unlucky, well, let's not finish that sentence. You stand. Not rushed, deliberate. Your feet are bare and silent on the flattened grass. The air smells like wet leaves and ash. The fire's mostly gone out, just orange worms glowing in charcoal skin. The elder is already up again. You wonder if he ever actually sleeps. He's chewing something bitter-smelling and watching the trees like they owe him an explanation. When you reach him, he says nothing. Just hands you a stone with a flat face and a ridge sharp enough to cut skin. You don't need to ask what it's for. Mammoths almost never attack unless provoked. But if they sense the wrong smell, too much smoke, too much blood, too much fear, they'll respond. Loudly, and with tusks the size of tree trunks. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans regularly hunted mammoths or mostly scavenged their remains after natural deaths. What's clear is that most tribes treated them like gods or nightmares, sometimes both. You whisper to the others. Everyone starts gathering their things, not a panicked scramble, more of a silent sweep. You're not leaving yet, but you might need to. Fast. You grab bundles of dried food, crushed roots, smoked strips of something once legged, hard nuggets of honey mixed with grit. You roll up mats, tie them with sinew, and distribute torches in case someone has to run blind. The sounds fade, minutes pass. Someone jokes. Maybe they heard stupid snoring and changed course. You all smile, but no one laughs. Eventually you hear a quieter sound, the crunch of grass under wide, soft feet. The mammoths aren't coming closer, just moving along a path they've taken for generations, probably to a salt lick beyond the ridge. The elder makes a slow circle with one hand. Relax, but stay alert. No one goes back to sleep. Instead, you pass the time in low murmurs, telling stories half-whispered. Braid hair, sharpened tools, strokes stupid behind the ears while he kicks his back leg in delight. You remember a tale your uncle used to tell about a boy who rode a mammoth for 3 days, only to discover the mammoth was actually a god in disguise, testing whether he could keep a secret. He failed, obviously. All the best stories end in catastrophe. The sun begins to rise, pale slow, like it's not sure anyone wants it today. Dew clings to everything, your clothes, your fingers, even the embers in the fire seem to sigh. You chew a stalk of something bitter and fibrous. It wakes your tongue but does nothing for your stomach. Still, it's food. Probably. The morning brings decisions. Travel or stay. The scouts vote to stay. Tracks are cold, water's still nearby, and the elder agrees until he doesn't. Midday, he picks up a clump of ash near the edge of camp, sniffs it, rubs it between his fingers. Frowns. Then he points to the trees. New fire, not yours, not from your people. The others don't speak, but you all feel it. A ripple of tension down your spines. There are always others, sometimes good, sometimes not, but rarely indifferent. You've been here too long. Fire trails linger. Patterns become visible. Even birds start to act differently. And if someone's watching, they know you're here. You prepare to move. No fanfare, no speeches, just efficient motion. This isn't your first relocation, and it won't be your last. You carry what matters, food weapons, memories carved into stone and wood. What doesn't matter is left behind. Sometimes you'll come back for it, sometimes not. One of the children insists on bringing a lump of dried clay shaped like a lizard. You let her. Maybe it matters to her. The procession winds into the trees. No paths, just instinct and memory. You keep to the shadows, stay low. Travel slow, then fast, then slow again like breathing. There's a rhythm to migration, a pulse that hums beneath your steps. You think of the mammoths, how they walk without doubt, how their footsteps shape the earth. You envy that kind of certainty. Someone trips, another curses, you help them up. No injuries, just mud. You pass a dead tree struck by lightning, charred and hollow, yet strangely beautiful. The elder pauses to scratch a spiral into the bark. You wonder if it's a ward or a goodbye. Later, when you stop for rest, you find a spot under a knotted tree with wide roots like welcoming arms. You collapse into it, boneless and quiet, and even in exhaustion, part of you listens. For thunder that isn't thunder, for fire that isn't yours, for rules older than words, because out here breaking them isn't rebellion, it's suicide. You wake up with a root jammed into your spine and a beetle trying to colonize your ear canal. So pretty standard. Around you, the rest of the group is rousing in similarly glamorous fashion, stretching, groaning, brushing dirt from their hair and swatting at bugs that seem personally offended by your existence. The forest feels thicker here, wilder. The trees lean over like old men gossiping, and the light filtering through is that kind of pale green that makes everything look slightly underwater. You sit up, rolling your shoulders, and immediately regret it. Sleeping in the wilderness without so much as a leaf mattress will do that. You half wish for a proper bed, then remember beds don't exist yet. Not for you. Not unless you count a pile of animal skins and wishful thinking. Breakfast is once again not so much a meal as an act of stubbornness. You gnaw on a chunk of dried root while squinting at a patch of mushrooms someone swears are edible. You're not so sure. One of them is purple, with spots. But hunger, as always, lowers your standards dramatically. The elder doesn't speak until everyone's eaten something. Then he gestures at a cluster of rocks that look suspiciously like a face. Not a friendly face either. More of a last thing you see before dying kind of face. This way, he says. Nobody questions. You walk. The terrain gets steeper. Slopes littered with loose gravel and the occasional sarcastically placed boulder make the journey feel like some sort of prehistoric obstacle course. You're pretty sure your calves are about to file a formal complaint. Eventually you come to a ledge. Below, the land opens like a storybook. A wide valley, a ribbon of river gleaming in the sun, and most importantly, a place you recognize. Not home exactly, but known. A summer site, maybe. Somewhere your people have camped before when the hunting was good. You descend carefully, each step a miniature gamble. Gravel shifts underfoot, and someone behind you mutters a prayer to a god that probably hasn't been invented yet. You reach the bottom in one piece, mostly. The camp is set up quickly like it's muscle memory. Tents fashioned from skins and bent branches go up. Fire pits are dug. People fan out to forage or scout. You're sent to collect water again. The river smells better than you remember. Or maybe you're just used to worse by now. You crouch, cupping water into your mouth. Cold, sharp, alive. That's when you notice the tracks. Not mammoth, not human either, something else. You freeze, not out of fear exactly, more like a deep-rooted alertness, the kind that predates language. Something about the shape of the footprints, the way they dig into the mud like the owner was dragging one leg. Big toes splayed unnaturally wide. Whatever made them wasn't wearing anything, or walking with full intent. You follow the tracks a few steps, they lead into the brush, then disappear. When you return to camp, you mention it to the elder. He listens, then nods. Doesn't seem surprised, just older. just spirits someone says nearby, half joking, half not. You don't laugh, you just keep moving. Later you help butcher a fish with a jaw like a bear trap. It smells like wet moss and regret, but it's protein and you've learned to shut up and chew. Historians still argue whether prehistoric people had any real culinary preferences or if hunger overruled all else. Based on your current reality, it's probably the latter. Around the fire, the evening stretches like old sinew. Stories begin not told in full sentences, but in gestures, grunts, and shared memory. Someone mimes a near-death experience with a snake. Another performs a dramatic retelling of falling into their own toilet pit. You don't mean to laugh, but you do. It feels good. It feels human. When the moon rises, the air grows cold. Stars flicker into view one by one like shy children. You wrap yourself in a stiff-smelling hide and try to ignore the ache in your legs. Sleep comes in waves, but not peace, because something in the dark still watches, and you know it. It's not just the rules of your tribe you follow, it's the unspoken ones of the land. Don't whistle at night. Don't stare too long into the trees. Don't follow footprints unless you know who made them. Simple rules, old ones, but easy to break when you're tired, or lonely, or curious. You roll over listening to the soft murmurs of sleeping bodies around you. A baby makes a hiccuping sound. Someone coughs. Someone else mutters in their dreams. You close your eyes and think of mammoths again, of that strange sense of order they carry with them. Maybe they have rules too. Maybe theirs are better. Because in your world you don't get second chances, you get eaten, or forgotten. Or you become the story whispered around fires when someone says, "Remember the one who broke the rule." You doze off with that thought, and in the distance something rustles. You wake again before the sun. Not by choice, your body just does that now. Some ancient alarm clock buried deep in your ribs, ticking on rhythm, uncaring whether you got enough sleep or not. The fire's nothing more than a red smear in the ash. The air smells of old smoke and damp fur. You sit up slowly, joints crackling like dry twigs, and stare at the pale line of dawn bleeding into the trees. A few others are stirring. The baby is fussing. Someone stokes the embers with a burnt stick and mutters about ghosts. Standard morning gossip. You stretch and check the perimeter. Not because it's your job, but because you didn't forget those tracks. The ones that weren't human. The ones that stopped just short of the river, then vanished. You don't see them now, but that doesn't mean they're gone. The world is quiet, which doesn't mean safe, just watching. Breakfast is slightly less terrible this time. One of the foragers found some half-frozen berries, and someone else caught a squirrel that tastes like bitter, dark meat and bark. You chew slowly, trying to imagine spices. Salt, a little fat. You'd sell your soul for a single fried egg. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans had any true notion of flavor hierarchy or if everything was just edible or probably not edible. But based on how fast you demolish a handful of mushroomy root mash, you suspect the bar was very low. After the meal, the elder gathers a group, including you. A new task today, clay digging. It's not glamorous. There's a muddy pit not far from camp, half frozen over and smelling like damp skin. You squat beside it with two others and start scooping wet, cold clay into a woven basket. Your fingers go numb in minutes and your knees sink slowly into the sludge. But this isn't pointless. This is for lining storage pots, for patching shelters, for creating figurines and fertility charms, for sealing cracks and painting ceremonial masks. Clay matters. Clay is culture. And maybe though no one says it, it's something you can shape in a world that rarely lets you shape anything. A younger girl sits across from you, quietly sculpting something while she works. It looks like a fish, but upside down. Or maybe a god. She doesn't say. You don't ask. One of the rules of the village is letting people be strange in silence. It's a good rule. You're starting to understand its purpose. The wind picks up whistling through the reeds, and then a sound, far off, faint. A howl. A voice. You stop. So does everyone else. The elder raises a hand, waits. Another moment, nothing. The others return to scooping, but you hesitate, because that didn't sound like an animal. It didn't sound like wind either. It sounded like language, or the memory of language, but that doesn't make sense. By the time you return to camp, your hands are raw and your back aches in that special I am permanently broken sort of way. You don't complain. Complaining's not against the rules exactly, it's just redundant. Everyone hurts. You're not special. That afternoon, you help build a sweat lodge. Well, lodge might be generous. It's more of a dome made from bent saplings covered in hides with hot stones rolled into the center and water poured to create steam. You go in, shirtless. You come out transformed. Steam clings to your skin like memory. Your muscles loosen, your brain fogs in a good way. Inside the lodge, people hum and chant softly, breath mingling in clouds. One person begins to sing in a language you don't understand, and another taps two stones together in rhythm. You feel both out of place and exactly where you're meant to be. It's one of the few places where the rules seem to fall away. Here, everyone's vulnerable, equal. You sit beside the elder and a toddler and a woman with sharp elbows and one eye. And nobody talks about what you've done or what you failed to do. They just breathe. You stay inside longer than you should. Afterward, back in the cold, you sit outside the circle of tents and watch the wind pull through the grass. A hawk rides a thermal. Somewhere to your left, someone's skinning a rabbit. Someone else is humming again. A slow tune that gets caught in your ears like splinters. Night comes faster than you expect. The stars wink into view one by one and the fire builds again at the center of camp. But tonight's stories are different. The tone has shifted. Someone says the forest isn't empty tonight. Someone else throws salt into the fire. You didn't know you had salt. Now you wonder what it was saved for. You don't say anything about the voice you thought you heard. Not yet. Maybe never. But you keep your eyes open longer this time. The rules have changed. You can feel it. Nobody laughs too loudly. Nobody dares wander past the firelight. You all sleep close tonight, not out of love, out of fear. The fire's still crackling when you wake again. Not because you're well rested, you're not. Your sleep was a mess of shallow dozing, sudden flinches, and strange half-dreams about eyes watching from the trees. But now fully awake, you realize what actually stirred you. Footsteps. Not running, not sneaking, just wrong. Too slow, too heavy, and too far from the main sleeping circle. You sit up quietly, your fur blanket falling around your shoulders. A few others are stirring, too sensitive ears, the light sleepers, the ones who've made it this far by never trusting the quiet. No one speaks. And then just barely you hear it again. Crunch, crunch. A pause, then another step. It might be an animal, a big one, a bear maybe, or one of the predators that still lives deep in the ravines and shadows of this place. Historians still argue whether prehistoric humans were apex predators or perpetual prey. But nights like this make the answer feel obvious. You reach for the stone club beside you. It's not much. Just a smooth river rock lashed to a short wooden handle. You've seen someone split a pig's skull with one, though, and that's enough to make you grip it harder. Then just as suddenly the sound stops. Nothing. No breath, no branch, no rustle. The forest holds its breath with you. You don't realize you're trembling until the elder's voice cuts softly through the dark. "Don't go looking," she murmurs. "Not tonight." And that's it. No explanation. No plan. Just don't go. So you don't. You stay by the fire with the others. The oldest man in the group tightens his coat and mutters something about ancestors. Someone else starts to hum again, soft, barely there, like a lullaby for ghosts. Eventually, you drift off again. Dawn comes as it always does, unapologetic, blunt. The fire is ashes, the footsteps are gone, and there's a mark near the edge of camp, just a small one. Half a footprint maybe, but wide, deep, and not human. You point it out. The elder says could be a bear, but she doesn't believe it. You don't either. Still, no one talks about it again. Instead, you're sent to collect bark. Not exciting, but necessary. The right bark can cure a cough, calm a fever, even stop bleeding if boiled long enough. Or so people say. And even if it doesn't work, it gives people something to believe in while the body fights on its own. You walk out toward the stream, staying close to two others. You don't stray from the path, not today. The forest feels tighter now, like it's listening. You find a stand of willow trees and begin the slow process of slicing strips from their lower trunks, careful not to kill them. That's one of the rules: take only what you need, and never from the same place twice. Because the trees remember. Whether you believe that or not, you still obey. One of the others finds a clump of mushrooms and calls you over. They're orange, bright, weirdly beautiful. You all look at them. Nobody touches them. Mushrooms are like prehistoric slot machines. Eat the right one and maybe you see the gods. Eat the wrong one and maybe you become a god fast. You head back before midday. Back at camp, someone is coughing hard, a deep rattling wheeze that won't stop. You recognize it. It's the kind of cough that ends in silence. There's no doctor, no herbs strong enough, no magic. You pass a bowl of water to the sick woman. She sips, then grimaces, her hand shakes. Her eyes are glassy. You don't know her name. People don't always share those. But you sit beside her anyway. That's another unspoken rule: you don't leave the dying alone. That afternoon, the wind picks up. Dust swirls. The sky turns the color of old bone. Someone says a storm's coming. Another says it's the ancestors angry again. You patch holes in the tent walls anyway. You prepare extra wood. You don't ask who caused the anger. You just make sure the fire doesn't die. By nightfall, the sick woman is quieter, breathing shallow. Someone sings beside her a song without words. The melody is strange, more like humming mixed with mourning. You find yourself humming too. Because even now there's comfort in rhythm. The wind outside howls louder. The tent flaps whip like sails. The fire dances violently, shadows flinging themselves across every surface. You remember what the elder said: don't go looking. But tonight, even staying feels like searching. You close your eyes and try to sleep. But something is coming. And the rules you thought you knew, they might not be enough. By morning, the storm has passed, but not quietly. Branches lie broken across the clearing. Someone's shelter is half collapsed, and the fire pit, once warm and alive, is soaked and struggling to smolder back to life. A few people are already busy gathering dry grass and wood shavings, coaxing reluctant sparks into something more useful than smoke. You step outside and stretch your back stiff from the uneven ground and damp furs. The air is sharp with the scent of wet ash and crushed leaves. It's quieter than usual, no birds, no insects. Just the sound of dripping branches and cautious footsteps. Then you see it. The sick woman is gone. Not dead, not here, just gone. Someone says they saw her crawl out during the night. Someone else insists she was carried, but no one knows for sure. Her things are still in a pile: her bowl, her blanket, even the string of bones she wore around her wrist. The elder walks slowly to the edge of the tree's eyes, scanning the shadows. Then she turns back, face unreadable, and says only, "We don't look. Not today." And that's the end of it. You learn quickly in prehistoric life that not every mystery needs solving. Some vanish before answers form, Some linger like smoke, others you just let drift away like her. But you don't forget. You carry her image with you as you head out for the day's real task hunting. Yes, you again. Because it's your turn, and because food doesn't catch itself. This time it's a group of 5-3 with spears, one with a bow and you with, well, hope. The path winds into thicker undergrowth. Brambles snag your legs. The sun filters through in patches, never enough to warm your skin, just enough to make you squint. Your stomach growls audibly. You didn't eat much yesterday. No one did. The dried berries and scraps of smoked meat only go so far. Tracking is slow. Someone finds faint hoof prints, maybe a small deer. You follow them in near silence. Every snap of a twig sounds like a declaration of war. One of the hunters whispers for you to walk softer. You resist the urge to ask how exactly one walks softer on gravel and twigs. But you try. Historians still debate just how advanced prehistoric tracking methods were. Some say they were intuitive, passed down through countless generations. Others argue they relied on luck, superstition, and trial by error. Today feels like all three. The tracks lead you toward a small ravine. It's muddy and steep, and you almost lose your footing sliding down. Your left shoe, or what passes for one, is now soaked and smells like something very recently alive and very unhappy. You crouch low behind a fallen log as one of the others spots the animal. It's not a deer. It's a boar. Big, bristly, angry. You make a mental note to stop wishing for something bigger. The spear bearers move into position. One flanks left. One signals to wait. You try not to breathe too loud. The boar snorts and roots in the dirt, utterly unaware that 5 anxious humans are plotting its doom just meters away. Then they charge. The forest explodes in motion. Screams, shouts, a squeal that could curdle bone. You see the boar wheel around, teeth bared. One spear hits it in the side, but it doesn't fall. It lunges toward the nearest hunter and catches his leg with a brutal swipe. Blood sprays. The hunter goes down. You freeze. Not because you're heartless, because you're human. And your brain has decided the best survival tactic is to become a rock. But the others keep moving. Another spear lands. A rock flies from somewhere. The boar stumbles, then crashes forward into a tree, finally still. Silence returns. Then panting, limping, bloody silence. The injured hunter groans. His leg is gashed but not destroyed. Someone rips a strip from their tunic to wrap it. You finally remember to exhale. The boar in the end is worth it. Meat for days. Organs for stew. Bones for tools. Even the hide can be used, though it stinks like nothing you've ever smelled. Someone makes a joke about inventing soap. It's not funny. But you laugh anyway. You help carry the carcass back with makeshift ropes and poles. It takes hours. Your arms burn, your legs ache. Every part of your body protests, but no one lets go. Because food is not just food, it's proof you survived another day. Back at camp, the boar is welcomed like a visiting king. The children squeal. The elder nods approvingly. The fire is revived, fed with dry pine branches and hope. People begin the butchering quickly. You look away. Not because you're squeamish, you're past that now, but because your job is fire duty. You tend the flames, keep them hot, make sure nothing valuable goes to waste. As the meat begins to roast, a smell fills the air that's equal parts delicious and primal. You eat more tonight than you have in a week, and for a moment you forget the footprint from the other night. You forget the missing woman. You forget the cough. Because your belly is full, your people are safe. And for just this breath, this blink, this heartbeat, you feel like maybe, just maybe, you belong. The fire crackles warmly into the night, snapping and hissing like it's whispering stories only it remembers. You sit cross-legged near its edge, watching the juices from the boar drip onto the embers, each sizzle a reminder that you've earned this. Smoke clings to your hair, your skin, your clothes, if you can call them that. Everything you own smells like fire now, and honestly, that's kinda comforting. You're full. Not stuffed, not bloated, just full. It's a new sensation, a luxurious one. Your stomach doesn't hurt. Your head isn't light. Your fingers aren't trembling from lack of food. You almost feel guilty about it until you glance around and see similar looks of sleepy relief on everyone else's face. Even the elder, usually so composed, leans back with a satisfied sigh. This right here is the best part of the day, and just as you're beginning to drift off, someone starts to hum. Low and off-key, but steady. It's not a song you recognize. No one here has invented verse, chorus, verse, but it moves like a story. Maybe a memory. Maybe a lullaby that predates words. A second voice joins in, then another. You don't know the words because there aren't any. Just hums and tones and breaths held in rhythm. It fills the clearing like mist, softening everything it touches. For a brief aching moment you imagine how many generations sat just like this, firelight flickering in their eyes, humming their fears away. Historians still argue whether music came before language or evolved alongside it. Some even believe melody was our first true bond, used to signal safety, soothe children, or mourn the dead. But right now you're not thinking academically. You're just humming too. And it feels right. The child next to you has fallen asleep with her mouth open and a greasy bone clutched in her tiny fist. Someone nudges a fur blanket around her shoulders without breaking the melody. You lie back and stare up at the stars. Yes, those same stars. Unchanged, mostly. A few nova'd out of existence, a few arrived fresh from galaxies no one here will ever know. But Orion is probably up there. Maybe Cassiopeia too. It's not like they have names yet, but you trace the lines with your eyes anyway, feeling oddly close to something vast. Then a hand touches your shoulder. Not harsh, not urgent, just a tap. You sit up groggily. It's the elder. She nods toward the edge of the woods. Oh, right. Night watch. You knew it was your turn. You were just hoping someone would forget. No such luck. So you pull your rough cloak tighter and shuffle toward the tree's torch in one hand, a dull spear in the other. The forest greets you with the rustling of leaves and the occasional owl shriek. Every step you take crunches too loudly. Every shadow looks suspicious. Here's the thing about darkness in the prehistoric world: it's not just absence of light. It's its own creature. Alive with possibility and threat, it hums differently, breathes differently. You don't fear the dark, you fear what it might be hiding. You stop at the designated marker, a forked tree stump with a rock stacked neatly in the middle. That's your station. You settle in beside it and let your eyes adjust. It's quiet. Too quiet. Or maybe you're just still jumpy from the boar. You shift your weight trying to find a comfortable position. The torch crackles, throwing light in short, jerky bursts. You think you hear something, twigs cracking maybe, or your imagination filing a noise report because it's bored. Something moves at the edge of your vision. You freeze, then relax. It's a hare, tiny, trembling, darting through the underbrush like it's late for a very important appointment. You watch it go, half jealous of its confidence. And then nothing. Just you and the trees and the stars that no one's named, until you notice something odd. A faint glow. It's distant beyond the clearing through the trees, a flicker like someone else's fire, but no one else should be out here. You consider ignoring it, but curiosity is a cruel animal, so you inch toward it, careful not to snap branches. Your breath shallow, your heart louder than your footsteps. Closer, closer. And then you see it. Not fire, not camp. Just a patch of phosphorescent mushrooms clinging to a fallen log, glowing with a soft blue-green pulse, like tiny breathing stars. You exhale, relieved, amazed, just a little embarrassed. Nature's tricks again. Historians still argue whether early humans understood bioluminescence or just worshipped it. Some claim these glows were seen as magic signs from the spirits or omens of the dead. You're just glad it's not another predator. You sit by the mushrooms for a while. They don't speak, but they hum with something ancient. You return to your station, eventually torch almost spent, and count down the time until someone replaces you. When your shift ends, you slip back into the camp like a ghost, tuck yourself beneath your shared fur, and close your eyes. The stars are still watching. The fire is still burning. The village is still alive, and you somehow have made it another day. Morning doesn't knock, it nudges you gently with birdsong and the smell of damp ash. Your first thought is that your leg has fallen asleep because it tingles in that maddening way where you want to scratch the inside of your bones. Your second thought is food. Again, always. You sit up slowly, fur blankets sliding from your shoulders, and blink into the dawn. The sky is smeared with that early gray-pink haze, soft and uncertain. A low mist hugs the ground, turning everyone's ankles into little ghost feet. The fire's mostly out. Just a few stubborn coals remain blinking like sleepy eyes. Someone's already up, probably more than one someone by the look of footprints in the dew. You follow the squish-squish path to the center of the clearing where two older women are scraping something into a pot. Grain may be wild grass seeds or pulped tubers. Either way, breakfast is underway. You kneel beside them, offering your hands without speaking. One woman grunts and hands you a bundle of herbs to grind. It smells sharp, almost sour, like lemon and dirt had a baby. You start mashing it between stones, rhythmically feeling the texture shift from crisp to paste. The day begins not with trumpets or triumph, but with repetition. There's comfort in that. Eventually more people gather. The child with the greasy bone from last night now has bedhead that defies gravity. She's chasing a beetle with a stick, shrieking like it owes her money. You almost trip over her as you stand. Breakfast is fine, warm and edible. Fine. Warm, and it fills you enough to make walking not hurt, which is all anyone's really asking of it. Afterward, people start to fan out. Tasks resume. Someone's rethatching a roof. Another's checking the trap line down by the marsh. You're sent to the edge of the woods with a gathering basket and no particular list, just the instruction. Bring back something useful, which is wonderfully vague. So you wander. The forest feels friendlier now, less threatening, more curious. Sunlight filters down in golden patches, highlighting moss bugs and the occasional toad that thinks it's invisible. You find a bush with berries you recognize as safe, sweet, juicy, too few. You eat one and then feel guilty and start actually filling your basket. You think about the mushrooms from last night, about the fire, the hum, the fact that somehow you're still here. Historians still argue whether early humans believed in fate or just cause and effect. Did they think surviving the night was luck or a reward from a spirit? Did they see meaning in small things like a glowing fungus or a strangely shaped stone, or did they just roll with it? You find a particularly smooth pebble black with a white swirl through its center. It fits perfectly in your palm. You pocket it. No reason, just a feeling. By midday, your basket is respectably full. Edible leaves, bark for tea, some insect eggs that are gross but apparently nutritious. You bring it back and people nod. No one praises you, but they don't frown either. That's high praise in this place. You spend the afternoon weaving. It's not glamorous, but it's needed. A new baby is on the way and the mother will need wraps and slings. You braid strips of animal sinew into cords, your fingers working almost on autopilot now. Another woman hums beside you. Not the same tune from last night, but it rhymes somehow. When the sun begins to lower again, the air cools. The sky shifts to orange gold, then bruises into purple. You realize something you haven't spoken all day. Not really. just gestures, grunts, maybe a name here and there. But that doesn't mean you haven't communicated. There's a vocabulary to the way people move, the way they share space. Language lives in looks, in shared chores, in the arc of a hand offering you a berry. You start to hum, not the same song, but your own version. The fire is relit. The food is leaner tonight, but no one complains. Fullness is a memory and a wish. Later, the elder speaks. Not loudly, just enough for the group to hear. She tells a story about a cave and a bird that flew into it and couldn't find the way out until it stopped flapping. Until it floated. A strange tale. But everyone listens. You think about the story as you lie down again under stars still stubbornly unnamed. You close your eyes. The fire cracks softly, someone's humming again, and you're there half dreaming, half remembering, a blur of survival and repetition. And the simple fact that you've done it again, lived a full day in a world that does not want you to. It's boring in the best way. Now the fire's glow fades to embers, now flickering low and steady like a heartbeat just before sleep. The village has settled. No more scraping or chewing or muttered plans about tomorrow's hunt. Just the rhythm of breathing, in, out, and again. The air is cool against your cheeks, a gentle hush wrapping itself around you like a second blanket. The sounds of the forest are softer now, crickets in no-rush wind threading gently through leaves, the occasional creak of branches settling for the night. The world has not stopped, but it's paused, just long enough for you to rest. In the distance, someone shifts in their sleep and murmurs a name. Maybe it's yours. Maybe it's someone long gone, it doesn't matter. The name drifts up and away like smoke, like memory. Your thoughts float too unmoored and drowsy. You're not worrying about what comes next. You're not even thinking about what came before. You're just here, warm, safe, tired in the most satisfying way. And as you slip beneath the surface of sleep, the stars above you burn gently, quiet reminders that even in the earliest days of human life, there was always light in the darkness, always something steady above the chaos. So go ahead. Let go now. Let the fire fade. Let the stories rest. And drift. Drift. Drift.